And we are back. This is episode number 86 of Kalibrated with Scott. I'm Scott, of course. Guys, I am so excited to hit episode 100. Technically, if you count the live streams and the recorded episodes, we're well over 100. I think we're at 40 live streams right now this year. Be sure to go check in on those. I do them multiple times a week. If you guys follow me on Telegram or Twitter, you will always be notified when those live streams are going to happen. I also do roundtables. Go check those out. I've done 3 roundtables with some pretty fascinating guests. So make sure you guys go and check out some of my other content as well. But without further ado, let's get into today's topic, which is a possible Russian offensive in the southern Donetsk region. The Ukrainian army is degrading militarily. The front line is moving faster than we've really ever seen it since the battle transformed from the early 2022 start of the invasion, when the lines were very fluid and everything was moving very quick, to the late 2022, 2023 time period where there was almost no movement, very stagnant. Ukraine had most of the initiative, besides around Bakhmut area. The summer counteroffensive failed. The Ukrainians maintained that initiative until about September. After September, the Russians have had the initiative since then. And now the war is getting to a particular turning point, I think, where the Ukrainians are now struggling in manpower, equipment, financial aid, all of this sort of stuff. It's all starting to snowball, and it's all coming to a head right now, and the Russians are stronger than they've ever been. So while the Russians are poised to go on the offensive, the Ukrainians are poised to have a weakened defense because of the situation that has transpired over the past, I would say, 6 to 9 months. Really, the entire SMO, the entire 2-year time period, but more recently and more significantly, basically since the end of the counteroffensive, the Russians have been building towards some offensive in some direction. This is just my prediction on where this offensive is going to occur. Some people think it might be in the Kharkov region. Some people think it might be in the Zaporozhye region. Some people think it might be in Chasiv Yar. And I'm going to go into great detail about why I think it's going to be in the south and what I think we're going to see. So without further ado, I'm going to take us over to the map now. Again, Ukraine, obviously, red is Russian-controlled territory in the SMO zone. If you guys want to use this map, you can find a link in my Telegram bio. You just head over there, go into my profile page, and you will see a link to this there. This is a map that you are more than welcome to use. I will, if I remember, I'll also try to put a link to it in the description. This is your guys' resource. I only add gains for either side when it's confirmed through geolocation. So my map is fairly accurate. Again, it's not exactly accurate. Obviously, human errors and my guesses from time to time, which is required on maps, points makes my map a little unique from other people, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, in my personal opinion. All right. So I believe we are going to see a Russian offensive in this southern Donetsk region. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, Ukrainian logistics to this area is much more difficult than Ukrainian logistics to, say, Chasiv Yar. Remember, Chasiv Yar has an entire urban conglomerate directly behind it. It has multiple roads connecting to it. It's easier to stage Ukrainian troops in this area and then send them into battle around Chasiv Yar. Same goes for Seversk. This whole salient is very topographically beneficial for the Ukrainians. I do believe that we could see some offensive operations in this bridgehead that the Ukrainians currently hold across the Oskol River, particularly down here across the Zhibiets River in Terny and Yampolivka. I believe that we could see a continued offensive in this area. And then some people have made the argument that a Kharkov offensive could potentially happen. This is also a possibility. If you remember, the Russian government said that they are going to make a 100-kilometer sanitary zone, which means that there's no Ukrainian military equipment in this zone. Basically, though, when you're talking about the reality of the situation, they're basically going to have to go to the Dnieper if they want to reduce the ability for Ukrainians to both shell, launch missiles, all of that stuff. So I believe that this is coming. I do believe you're going to see this happen eventually. Do I think it's going to be right now? I don't particularly think so. We haven't had any reports of a Russian buildup in the Belgorod region. Kharkov is being prepared. The Russians are now striking critical infrastructure in Kharkov very significantly. However, I believe that this is planning for down the road, and this might be a winter 2024 campaign, perhaps late summer, depending on how the rest of the potential offensive goes. Again, guys, remember, this is just an idea of mine. This is where I think that the likelihood of an offensive is most probable. And like I said, I'm going to explain my reasoning for that. So heading down to the southern Donetsk area, remember, this is where Avdiivka was. The Russians have now won the Battle of Avdiivka. And if you look at this, they've actually secured a fairly large chunk of territory after the capture of Avdiivka and have really pushed the front line quite far away from Donetsk. In fact, more recently, I have not seen as much shelling of Donetsk. Surprise, surprise. The Ukrainians get pushed back. The Russians are hunting artillery systems, so shelling Donetsk has become a much more costly endeavor for the Ukrainians. Counter batteries always watching. So this is a significant happening, and I believe that they are going to ride that momentum. As you can see, in the recent days, this was just yesterday, we have Berdichi being mostly totally captured. I don't know if I imagine they probably consider these houses part of Berdichi. I imagine the Ukrainians are still potentially holding those. So, and there are reports that Semenkivka has been, the Ukrainians have withdrawn from Semenkivka to a defensive line back here. So this is just the last couple of days. You can see the Russians are making progress here. They're pushing pretty significantly. And the overall goal for this offensive is obviously the capture of Vuhledar. This is a very important position for the Ukrainian defense in the southern Donetsk area. And then the overarching goal is going to be Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is the artery or the heart, I guess, of the defense of the southern Donetsk region for Ukraine. It is the transportation hub. The railway comes in here. The highways come in here. It is one of the only major cities in the southern Donetsk region besides Donetsk. You can see if you zoom out, there's just not a lot in this entire area besides Donetsk, some of the cities back behind Donetsk, and then Pokrovsk up here. Avdiivka was supported by Pokrovsk. This is like Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar, except the distance is a little further. But as you can see, all of these little settlements are very, very small. Even the bigger Sadov is not particularly large overall. So I'm going to talk about why I think the Russians are going to push in the south. And to do that, I'm actually going to take us over to my maps that I made for you. So let's see, which one do I want to start with? Yeah, okay, I'll start with the Avdiivka sector. Is it this one? No, it is not. Apologies. Hold on, guys. I'm going to pause this and be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to adjust my screen so I could actually show you guys what I wanted to show you. All right, let's get right into it, huh? So I'm going to just run you guys through. I've already made the map, so I'm just going to talk about it, kind of narrate while I'm advancing through the mapping here. All right, so to start it off, we have, I just to clarify, I have used different colors for different phases. The first phase is yellow. Red indicates important areas that need to be captured for this to kind of start. And I believe the second phase is green, and then the third phase is orange. And you'll see the different lines as well. So the first attacks are going to be, I believe, out of the Avdiivka salient. This is already happening. This is already transpiring. This phase is already occurring. So yellow phase is what is currently happening and what should happen, in my opinion, over the next couple of weeks and months. So a push out to Arkhangelsk and Orchitny here. Basically, for the Russians, capturing the entire next line of the Ukrainian defense outside of Avdiivka. Remember, this is the second line of defense. It has been broken now. The Russians are now pushing out into the third line of defense behind Avdiivka. So that includes Umansk, Novopokrovsk, and then down to Yazembrodbrivka, and then let me think, and then down to Natovoli. So this is the first phase, right? This isn't even really a prediction. This is already just what is happening. The Russians are going to attempt to push out to this reservoir line here, and you will see it right here. I drew the reservoir line. This is what I believe the Russians will try to do by about late May. I think that this is the Russian goal by late May. I think that the Ukrainians are going to start to run into, I had talked about the snowball effect, this cumulative effect of things that are coming at the Ukrainians, particularly right now, the manpower shortage. Mobilization has basically failed for the Ukrainians, and they're going to start struggling with filling holes on the front, right? They still have meat, and it's not about the meat that they have available to them, but the quality. So that the Russian progress through weaker defensive lines, with weaker soldiers defending those defensive lines, with weaker weaponry, less ammo, cumulative effect, right? The Russian production of glide bombs, the Russian artillery, Russian missiles has not slowed down. In fact, it has increased in intensity and usage. So the Russians are just moving faster and faster and faster, and it's going to become cumulative, and it's going to multiply and get stronger and stronger. The next phase of the operation will be pushing out along the high ground that runs along Orchitny right here. You guys, I would highly recommend you go and look at topographical maps. It really allows you to know exactly what the Russian plan is. You can see it. The Russians are moving along the high ground in between Umansk, right here and right here. And they would like to push out along this railway around Orchitny. And then I will show this down the railway all the way to Seladov and Horodivka, which, by the way, is the final staging position now, the final large staging position for this entire front. There's not really another good location closer that provides any protection via, basements and urban areas and stuff. I'm sure these places have little staging areas, but in terms of the final large staging areas, it's these two, and these two are shelled and struck by missiles and bombs constantly. So, yeah. Again, you'll just see the progression out into the little towns, Zeleny, moving around, Kalinove, and then the final goal, which is obviously Pokrovsk, which I have outlined here, and Mihrod. The secondary goal is Saledov and Novohorivka. I already said these, but just so you guys know, I couldn't remember how I ordered these when I was making them. So this is this part of this sector. I'm going to cover three different sectors here, three different parts of this offensive, and then show an overarching view of what the offensive will look like zoomed out. All right, head over to the next one. I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. So this is the Krasnohorivka front. This is just south of Horivka. What you just saw me illustrate was above this. This is the very bottom of that map where the Russians are expanding out of the Avdiivka salient. So here we go. First and foremost, this little pocket right here is going to have to be captured. Once that is captured, the Russians will begin pressing into Natalo. Netalove. It's not Italian, but I'm going to say it like that. From the north and from the east. And then after this is captured or during this capture, remember this is all in the same phase, the Russians will push out of Novelske down onto the high ground just north of Krasnohorivka. Once that high ground is captured, further pushes from the south will intensify, as well as pushes from the east. This is a difficult area to push in. Don't expect much progress from here. This is just fixing operations. You know, when Ukrainians are in the defense, the best thing that the Russians do to overwhelm them is apply pressure to all sectors of the front, so no area can be relieved and transferred. My dog is barking, so if you hear my dog barking, well, here we go. Somebody's delivering mail. Sorry, guys. Joys of having a dog is that they often bark obsessively and very annoyingly. So, yeah, let's get back into it. Pushes from the east are more of a fixing operation just to keep Ukrainians in their defenses so that the operations in the north and south can go much easier. Once Krasnohorivka is captured, then the Russians will begin the next phase of their operation, which will be pushing out to the river line here and just securing this next Ukrainian line of defense. And you will see, so that's it for this sector. On the backside of this sector, there's not a lot, right? There's not a lot going on over here. So you'll see that on the final version. There's just not a lot happening over here. So after this is complete, this sector might be kind of quiet. Basically, once all of these visible settlements are captured. All right. Go over to our final map here. Yeah, and this one is going to be very much the southern Donets. Oh, wait, this is the wrong map. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Had a 50% chance of getting it right, and I got it wrong. All right, here's the southern Donetsk front. This is the Vuhledar area. This is the Novomihailovka area. Again, primary objective right now is the capture of Krasnohorivka and Novomihailovka. Once that occurs, then the operation should begin. The Russians will begin pushing down from Pabyata along this highway towards Konstantinivka. Konstantinivka will be under an extreme amount of pressure from the north and from the east. It probably won't hold for very long. Back here will hold a little bit better, but this particular area, this particular settlement is going to be very difficult to hold. Once Konstantinivka falls, the Russians are also going to push out along this northern sector, or this northern area where the high ground is right here, looking down on this little creek area, this little river. And then after that, further progression out of Novomihailovka to actually cut this highway, which supplies Vodiana and Vuhledar and the coal mine just north of Vuhledar, all very strong defensive fortifications for the Ukrainians. Progress down the highway towards Vadian, push into Vadian, progress down the highway towards the coal mine, and then finally to Vuhledar, all while pushes are coming from every direction, right? The Russians are not just going to, this isn't linear, guys. This is a multifaceted, multi-front sort of multiple flank attack. So while the fighting is coming from Vuhledar, they will be pushing down from Pabyata. All of this is basically happening at the same time. Not necessarily exactly at the same time, like a push at Pabyata could come before the start of a push at Vuhledar, but they're all in conjunction to, again, fix Ukrainians, keep them in positions, and force difficult decisions to be made by the Ukrainians. Also, I believe that the Russians could begin an attack down in this more southern area, not very well defended in terms of the fortifications built in this area, and it would just, again, spread out Ukrainian resistance along this entire defense line. So the pushes into Zotola and Pereshkivka. And then here is the front line. The goal of this first phase of this operation is to secure this highway that runs all the way down to Vuhledar and secure the highway that runs this direction west. So that's the first phase. Now the second phase is pretty clear. You can kind of see it's like a layered a layered situation here where in this southern Donetsk area, there are not very many roadways. So roadways are of a vital importance. They allow this highway in particular would give a lot of logistical freedom to the Russians. That's why I believe this is so important. And the Ukrainian defenses in this area and the Ukrainian ability to stop large scale maneuver warfare operations is much, much, much more difficult. It's also very exposed, so counter battery warfare is, and drones and everything is much more productive for the Russians. All right, so now the second phase, pushing along, not necessarily along this area, probably from the top here, just where the high ground is, but capturing this string of settlements, pushing out from Horivka through Maximilianka and then up to Kharkove. Again, pushing out to this highway road, that's the most important thing is having transportation lines. You can't drive, it's hard to drive through fields, right? Pushing up all the way to this line. And then here is the next phase where I believe the front will want to be protected by this reservoir. Like I said, pushing out of Krasnohorivka, which is right here, the previous map we looked at, up into this area above, there's not a lot going on. So pushing out, capturing the roadways is the most important here in the south, and then finally pushing to Vuhledar. Don't really know how to say some of these places. Don't look at them very often, but yeah. So I believe that this right here is truly, I think, the most important aspect of this entire offensive. If the Krasnohorivka thing doesn't go exactly as planned, I don't think that the Russians are really like super eager to capture Krasnohorivka and get into another large urban battle right now. This would be a much more damning situation, especially because past this white line, past this white line here, there's not a lot of defenses. So once the Russians get past this white line, green and orange should start moving a lot more quicker and, again, snowball. All right, for the final map, I want to take us over to the full map zoomed out. Give you guys a little more perspective on the situation and have the whole thing play out at the same time. So, not the right one. Apologies. All right, I got it now. Okay, so here's that entire southern Donetsk front. Obviously, you guys saw where I had, this is the first front. Here's Avdiivka. Here's Pokrovsk. This is the first image I showed you. Oops. Oh no, I messed up. Okay, it's all good. I'll do it this way. Once you do that, it doesn't allow you to show all of the lines you made. So I will just remake them again. Okay, so here is the first push. You're going to see a push out towards Arkhangelsk and, oops, not the right pointer. Fix it. Here we go. Push out towards Arkhangelsk and Orchitny. Then you will also see pushes out to secure this reservoir, like I had talked about. Right. This is just the first phase. You have pushes out from Pervomaysky and Novelsky towards Krasnohorivka and up to Krasnohorivka. You have pushes out towards Kharkove. No, wait, that's incorrect. Sorry. You have pushes down from Pobyeta towards Konstantinivka, out from this salient to secure Vuhledar and this road right here. So I will go ahead and now label this white for the first line. Right. Something like this. Secure that southern area, right? Something like that. This is obviously very rough, guys, but something kind of close to that. Then what you would see, and I'll draw it for you guys so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here is that railroad that I showed you that goes all the way down to Sadove. The Russians are going to want to push along that high ground. It just makes sense. That's what the Russians do. At the same time, they're going to want to push out on that high ground and take as much of these small settlements as they can. They're going to be very incredibly difficult for the Ukrainians to defend. This being the primary goal of phase 2. So here, let me do this color so you guys can see the primary goal of phase 2 in the blue. All right. And then back to green, pushing out towards Hrinki. Oops. Choose the wrong green. Yeah, I did. Here we go. Pushing out towards Hrinki, pushing towards Kharkove. And then, like I said, just kind of pushing out, capturing everything up until this road. So I will use black now for the next line. Something like this. Oops. Used arrows. Please forgive me. Just potentially something like that. So again, not a gigantic movement, nothing overly significant, but you know, it's still this is a vital importance because once, like I said, once this white line falls, there's not much behind this, and the Russians, I believe, will really be able to start expanding out. And I'm going to take you back over to the other map here. Here's the final orange. You guys should know, just push out towards the settlement right here, Bakhtir, and then a final push towards Pokrovsk. And then once you are in Pokrovsk, guys, this is why it's so vital. This is why it's so important. What color should I do for this? Let's go dark blue. You can see there are roads, right? So you have roads in every direction. It gives the Russians the ability to go everywhere. And if you know what's up here, it's the urban conglomerate in Donbass, and that's what the Russians want. So that's what we're looking at right now. Very, very neat. And that is my prediction for what we will see over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to actually take us over real fast to the map just so I can show you guys on the map. So basically, what it would look like is something like this. I don't know if the Russians would push all the way out to Bakhit or Bakhert right away. So I'm just going to go with my gut and go with what I believe the Russians will be looking to capture within this sort of operational phase. And this is maximum goals too, guys. So this is not necessarily what's going to happen. It's probably going to take much longer than anybody hopes for or wishes for, but something like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You guys will get the gist of it. It doesn't fill in every little gap on the front. Boom. Okay. So something like this. That's what I believe the Russian goal is. And if you look at what this does, this then creates a really, really bad situation for the incredibly fortified areas of Donetsk and New York. That puts them in a horrible position. It also opens up the back door, basically, to ride up into Juskivka. If this happens, if something like this happens, or the same thing can happen in the north, and there's a reason why everybody talks about a Kharkov offensive. It's because if the Russians reach Izium, they reach the roads that go back behind Slavyansk, right, and Kramatorsk. That's why these areas are so important. Pokrovsk is just the Izium of the south, right? If Izium falls, the same thing happens if Pokrovsk falls. It really compromises the Ukrainian defensive positions here, and would basically mean that there might not be a need to have a battle for New York, Toretsk, Seversk, Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, right? A single battle for I mean, it would be a long battle, but a single intense battle for Seledove and Pokrovsk would yield the exact same results as potentially fighting for, a Kharkov-sized city, refighting a battle for Izium, going through all of this forested area. Movement is just not as easy through these areas. Ambushes are a lot more prevalent. Weather affects ground conditions here severely. The weather affects ground conditions down here as well, but just in terms of bang for your buck, I think that collapsing this area for the Russians will yield much, much higher results than, a push in the Kupian sector or whatever. If the Russians push in this area, they have to just fight a very, very, very tough, hard battle up against a lot of geographical barriers, just a lot more difficult. Also, now with the rail line being completed from Rostov to Crimea, the Kerch Bridge is not an issue anymore, and this entire line has very, very stable logistics supply now. So a lot going on, but that is a small little prediction for you guys, what I think could potentially happen in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. I'm going to try to put out more content, guys. I'm always trying to put out as much content as I can. If you have any ideas for content for the future, please comment below, DM me, ask for suggestions. Any ideas you guys can put in my head, even if I don't capitalize on that exact idea, you still help me expand my horizons and really think about what I'm doing. So I really appreciate that. Everybody, take care. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Tell your family that you love them. Reach out to that friend who you haven't talked to in a while. Make sure they're doing okay. And really just pray for the best, prepare for the worst. Bye, guys.